Welcome, everyone, to the special edition, the 7 overtime edition of the Reformed SEC Tavern podcast. Unfortunately, Ashton was not able to join us this evening, so JB and I will be co-hosting in his absence. But if he had to pick one to be absent from, this would be the one, because he's still pretty sore about that game. JB, why don't you go ahead and take it away while I move to my studio?
Well, alrighty then. I'm still learning how to drive this thing here. But yeah, glad to see you guys tonight. We've got a great show for you. We've got a new guest with us today. Actually, he is the new moderator in the Reformed SEC Tavern. His name is John Duncan McLeod, a.k.a. JD, and actually for purposes of this episode, we will be calling him Johnny Mac to keep it
That's right.
easier. But Johnny Mac, why don't you, what?
Give me like 2 minutes. I forgot. I've been doing some packing to get ready to move, so my studio's a little full right now. I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay, well, James is going to be on a hiatus. But like I was saying, Johnny Mac, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how you came to come into the tavern, and who you are representing, and what you're about, bro.
All right. Well, let's see. I'm 31 and from Charleston, South Carolina, so it's kind of a given. I'm going to be a South Carolina Gamecock. Best team in the SEC, whether other people believe it or not. But I think actually you, JB, I think you added me from another group. I think we got to talking about football, whatever, one day, and I think you added me to the tavern, and just love getting with other people that are all SEC fans.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I like to lobby for the group a lot. That's definitely my thing. And Rob likes to point out that I'm on entirely too many groups. And I really probably am, but it's okay. I like to get out there.
I just don't know how you keep up with it.
It's hard, man. It's difficult, especially when you're an admin in 3 different groups, because you're on these group chats with everybody. There's always something going on, and but it's all good.
Now you're a new admin for the Reformed Tomahawk. That's
right. So I guess I'm an admin for 4 groups now. But Tomahawk, that's a cool group, man. I think it's going to be fun, especially during baseball season. Right now, it's just kind of like, the off season. It's just kind of weird. I'm not big into any really off season, like even like SEC football. Most SEC fans are like all about the recruiting, this, that, and the other. No, man, basketball's on. I don't really care about that right now. I'm sorry. But anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and go into our recaps, since it looks like our buddy is back. Maybe. It looks like, possibly. No.
I was just not ready, man. I was not ready. My lighting is killing me right now. But trying to get in that perfect spot where it won't fall. All right. I think we are good. All right, there we go.
Tell us about the crucial role that the punter played in those 7 overtimes. I know he came in as like a quarterback or something, right?
Well, actually, because A&M lacks cheerleaders and the yell leaders were getting pretty tired after that 3 hours, he had to take over, do a little morale boosting, and getting the crowd into the game. That's what I did in high school when I was hanging out on the sidelines. But But nah, yeah, he did a little bench warming, made sure the guys didn't get too cold, stayed nice and limber and loose for all those amazing touchdown catches, namely Kendrick Rogers, with 5 catches in the end zone in overtime. One of them while he was getting pretty egregiously fouled. It was a pretty great game. Yeah, looking at my notes here, like Kellen Mond. Unfortunately, it was a sub 50% completion on the night with 23 for 49 with 287 yards, but he had 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Granted, it's a little bit easier to score those touchdowns when you're starting on the 25-yard line, but regardless, he still had a solid game, and he had 3 touchdowns on the ground. So that was a 9-touchdown game for Kellen Mond. Travion Williams almost broke 200 yards again, and the ball got spread around to 7 different receivers. Our top 4 were Courtney Davis, 7 for 101 yards with 2 touchdowns, Jay Sternberger for 5 for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Kendrick Rogers, who officially had 3 catches for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I guess they don't count the 2-point conversions towards their stats. But Braden Mann went 5 for 266 with a long of 59 yards, and Seth Small was perfect on the night, 3 for 3 with extra points, 5 for 5 with field goals. The defense did a solid job, got 6 sacks to LSU's 2, and unfortunately, though, they only got 1 QB hurry to LSU's 6. So LSU was definitely forcing Kellen Mond to make some worse throws. Joe Burrow actually had a pretty solid game with a plus 60% completion rating, 25 for 38, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. And that was one area where Texas A&M struggled a little bit. They brought a lot of pressure, but that also loosened up the front line and allowed Joe Burrow to get out and gash him on the ground. And he went 29 rushes for 100 yards. Would have been more had he not been sacked those 6 times. So, I mean, really the game, the first, 58 and a half minutes was, typical SEC football. But in that last minute and a half, when Texas A&M started driving, that's when the magic started to happen, and it just kept coming. And Texas A&M just seemed to get into some sort of supernatural rhythm and just kept bam, bam, bam moving down the field. Now, they weren't perfect. They did have a couple incompletions, but they were still able to keep the rhythm and the flow going, clock manage. And on that last play before going into overtime where Kellen got the ball down to Kendrick Rogers on the edge, and he stretched and he reached to get out of bounds. I thought he got out of bounds. That was when the next play they got up to spike the ball. I thought he got out of bounds with his one arm, and I'm pretty sure it was his one arm that hit the ground first, but I guess that's not the way that they ruled it. But in spite of that, they were still able to get up to the line and spike the ball with less than 1 second to go. There was still 1 second on the clock. And apparently some people were getting pretty mad because the 1 second ticked off by the time they actually stopped the clock. However, according to the rule book, somebody I read somewhere online like that, there was actually a picture of what the rule book had to say, and it essentially said if you've got at least 3 seconds left on the clock, a team has enough time to spike the ball. So I take that to mean that a team, if they line up to spike the ball and get it off, even if the clock runs off, pretty much the same time, that I guess they get that 1 second back. I don't know. Either way, there were a lot of controversial calls, and I honestly did feel kind of bad about them during the game, but looking at them after the game, I realized that they weren't quite as controversial. Hindsight is more 2020. Most notably was the fumble by Jay Sternberger that would have ended the game. And looking back at that, you can't really tell whether or not he secured the football. watching the game, it looked like he had secured it and it got jarred loose. And he did take 2 steps with the football. However, he's transferring the ball in those 2 steps and it got knocked out. But in spite of all that, just back and forth in the overtimes, continually getting the touchdowns, the 2-point conversions with some amazing catches, and made for the longest, highest scoring game in FBS history, and definitely one of the most magical. Going from almost throwing an interception and getting the opposing coach prematurely Gatorated, and then having to watch him sit through an extra 2 hours in 7 overtimes while the stuff dried, getting continually more mad as his team started to fall apart. You know, it was pretty magical. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to remember that one for a long time. And the only thing I regret about that game is not being there.
I've actually witnessed a couple of 7 overtime games myself. Being an Arkansas fan, we had the 2 longest in the history of college football until last Saturday. One of which being against Ole Miss with a strapping Eli Manning, who was NFL bound, and the freshman sensation Matt Jones ended up victorious in that game. But anyway, I do love a long 7 overtime game. It was enjoyable, and I find it very funny and ironic that Ashton had something to come up a few days after getting beaten by James's team. I'm just going to leave that to everyone's imagination. And we're going to go to Mr. Rob and see what his game was like this past weekend. Where'd you go, Rob?
Bob. Okay. I guess Rob is not with us currently. That's a little weird. I'll go ahead and kick him from the call and recall him. But I guess we can go on to Mr. Johnny Mack and see how his game went.
Man, that was an interesting game. Well, actually, we did a lot better than I thought we would have. Just to be completely honest. I mean, Clemson is the number 2 team in the nation, and we were ranked number 50. So we did better than I thought we would have, and we definitely kept their defense at hand. But yeah, there wasn't too much really notable to talk about.
Hey man, I was getting a little bit excited there because it was pretty close there for a while.
Yeah, it was actually at the what was it, the end of the first quarter? I mean, well, the whole first quarter when we did score right off the kickoff, or right very first play, right around there somewhere, I don't remember. And then I mean it was just back to back. And then after that it was just everything. Clemson ended up getting ahead of us, and we just couldn't pull it back.
Yeah, it was. I was thinking, this is going to be amazing. South Carolina beats the number 2 team in the nation, man. I mean, talk about some SEC. Like, dude, this is like one of the worst teams in the SEC. I'm sorry. This is the worst team.
What it is.
The Arkansas is the worst team in the SEC. I will go on and admit that. So I can straight up say, South Carolina is definitely in the bottom tier. Probably not as bad as us or Tennessee or Vandy. But they're down there. So. Anyway, Rob is still not back. So when he gets back, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm about to jump on that. Make sure he gets back in. There we go.
There she blows.
All right,
Rob, we're gonna.
Yeah.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure for you to join us. Thank you for that.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi decided it wanted to crap out on me for a second.
Mm. Well, I was going to you to give us a recap of the Georgia game this past weekend.
Yeah, so not really a huge recap to give. We kind of blanked them. I honestly didn't even watch hardly any of the second half because it was was catching up on an old friend I hadn't seen in a while. So we it was funny. They had not much more rushing yards than they did passing yards. Their at least one of their scores, if not two of them, came off of passing touchdowns because they in the second half we started putting in our second, third, fourth string, whatever, and so they were slinging whatever they could get to get some points. But we pretty much, I mean, in the first half, I mean, they had like hardly any rushing yards. I don't remember what it was, but it was really low. It was like 50 something rushing yards. So we really held them to almost nothing, and then they just got some trash yards or late in the game. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much to give. It was not much of a game to watch. It was kind of that way a lot with the rivalry week this week. It wasn't a lot of close games, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. I will say that. I mean, it was a lot of like your game got bad. The Alabama Auburn game, actually, it was good for a while. Then Alabama did Alabama things.
Yeah.
And Auburn did Auburn things.
Auburn did Auburn things. Gus Malzahn did Gus Malzahn things.
That's fair.
I think anybody who watches this show knows how much I love Gus Malzahn, or don't love.
Loves, yeah, in quotation marks,
quote unquote, love me some Gus Malzahn.
Yeah.
Before I get to my recap, what do y'all think about Gus Malzahn renegotiating his contract and taking less money?
I mean, that actually is a pretty reasonable thing to do. I mean, if you've been on the hot seat, you end up just barely saving your bacon. I mean, it's right, I mean, he's not playing up to his old contract. He still wants his job. So not only is it honorable, it seems like the wise thing to do, just because, hey, you guys, I know I haven't been doing what I was supposed to be doing. So go ahead and give me a pay cut. Don't fire me. I'll turn things around and then we can renegotiate later, I mean, so it seemed like a pretty decent situation and not something that you see all that often, which I wish you would, unlike the Kevin Sumlin on the downward spiral, re-signing the 6 more years or whatever it was for more money. And it's like, but I mean, I guess ultimately that's on the school for signing the contract to give them money whenever they've seen the poor, poor performance. So.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, man, like, and I'm gonna read a verbatim text that a Bama fan sent me about it. He said, "If I were Gus, I would tell Auburn to go screw themselves. If you want to fire me, pay me my money. You agree to the contract. Now honor it." And that's kind of how I feel about it. They made this stupid contract and said, "Look, we want you here for another this many years, and we're going to pay you this much money." Blah 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 blah. Go ahead.
I mean that shows you what a school is wanting to do off of one or two games. You had they beat Georgia and Alabama both at number 1 last year, and they're like, oh, like he's a great coach all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he had a good year, but is he consistently doing it?
No.
It's like, yeah, exactly. So just because you have one good year,
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you deserve to get a huge, long extension for a ton of money.
Yeah. But, for the record, we're looking at 2 good years and 4 mediocre years for Mr. Malzahn, the homegrown Arkansas guy that, of course I love. No, I don't love.
Look at his record against Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. He's 2-4. He's beaten Alabama twice. He's beaten Georgia twice, which I will say, nobody has beaten Alabama twice except for him and Hugh Freeze, and Hugh Freeze had to cheat to do it. And Mr. Jesus lover Hugh Freeze decides to cheat and get hookers. But anyway, we're going to keep going there.
Yeah.
We're going to move on. I gotta take jabs at people whenever I can, man.
Man.
I'm not the professional person that Ashton is. I get a little bit emotional and colorful at times. That's why he said that I'm more like Herb Street, because I just say whatever is on my mind at the time.
Ashton says plenty.
He does. He respects your right to be wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Every single week. Every single week. I'm going to recap my game real quick because there's not much to recap.
Yeah, not this year.
Not this year. Okay, I'll say this. I witnessed history Saturday. I saw the end cap to the worst season the Arkansas Razorbacks have ever had in football. We went 2-10. We've had seasons where we only won 2 games, but that was when there were 10 or 11 games a year. We have never lost 10 games in a season. So I can tell my grandkids that I saw the worst season in Arkansas history. It's part of history right there, bro.
Fun story time, kids.
Fun story time.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about the few natties that I got to watch, I can talk about how bad we were before. The good thing I will say that Connor,
Back in my day,
we sucked. We haven't always sucked. Y'all know that. The good news is Connor Nolan got a lot of playing time. He's the true freshman quarterback, and he's probably going to be the starter next year unless we get KB, which I really think we're going to get. If Kelly Bryant does not come, Nolan will be the starter, I assume. But I really think that he's coming. It's a match made in heaven. I'm going to throw that. Just leave it as it is. He went 5 for 17, which is not good, but he did throw for almost 100 yards passing on 5 attempts, on 5 completions, which is a pretty good statistic. He probably threw for one long one. I can't remember because I didn't really care at that point. I stopped caring a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Drew Lock, on the other hand, he had a career day. Like every quarterback that faces Arkansas has a career day. He went 16 for 25 for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he got a round of applause in his home city of Columbia. Not his home city, but, the hometown crowd. Roundtree got a 29. Larry Roundtree got 29 rushes for 119 yards. They had a good day. Everybody who plays us has a good day. Unfortunately for us, so we lost 38-0. I don't know how we scored against Mississippi State and LSU and not against Missouri, but it is what it is. I mean, 2 of the top 5 defenses in college football, and we were within a touchdown against one, and we scored 6 against the other, and then we get a big old goose egg against Mizzou.
I know what happened.
What happened?
They stopped caring when you stopped caring.
That is absolutely true.
I mean, how are you supposed to care with a 2-10 season? I mean, granted, yes, they've got a great recruiting class, but I mean, that's all future. All the seniors, they've got nothing more to play for. They've thrown away their senior year on a 2-10 season. Maybe they had a fun time doing it, but they've completely killed, well, maybe not completely, but they've significantly damaged any hopes they had of playing in the pros. And unless they've unless they've only used 3 years and have a shot at a graduate transfer, that's it for them. So, I mean, honestly, I'd have a hard time caring too. Granted, my senior year in high school, I cared, and we lost all but 1 or 2 games, so I was very much in the same boat, but I cared a lot because it was only my second year playing football, and it was the last chance I was going to get. So, but yeah, no, long story short, they probably stopped caring a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we all stopped caring a few weeks ago. Well, I mean, when they became ineligible for a bowl, which was 3 weeks ago. I don't know. 3 weeks ago, we, could have beaten LSU or at least tied LSU because we were down by 7 and we had a chance to win it or tie it. Which anyway, after that, I think we were done for the year. I mean, it was just whatever. I think they were just kind of like, we're not playing for a bowl game. We're not playing for anything. This is a throwaway season. And even Chad Morris, I mean, you got to look at him saying this is a throwaway season for him. I mean, nobody's looking at this saying, oh my gosh, Chad Morris is a bad coach. Well, yes, people are, but people that have a brain aren't. Sorry. Because it's the first season and he comes off of 5 years of a pro-style offense and a lazy recruiting ethic. So he ended up with mediocre players to run a pro-style offense. Trying to convert them to play a spread kind of RPO offense is not going to work. And you can ask Chip Kelly, and you can ask Scott Frost, and you can ask Willie Taggart how easy it is to convert a pro style to a spread offense. It does not work. Those are 3, or at least 2 out of 3 really good coaches, I think, who have a really crappy season. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to go on to questions after I,
All right.
self-deprecated my Arkansas Razorbacks because I'm just sad, and I'm glad basketball is here and baseball is coming.
All right.
The first question comes from Mr. Samuel Wallace, my boy, one of the 5 to maybe 10 people that I know in real life that are in the Tavern. He's actually my Sunday school teacher. He asks, Alabama and Georgia play a nail-biting 2 overtime game with Georgia winning by a point. What do you do with Alabama as far as the playoff is concerned?
Johnny Mac, why don't you take this one first?
Yeah, let's do this.
What would I do with Alabama?
Yeah. What would you do with Alabama regarding the playoff if they play Georgia to a double overtime game and lose by a point?
So they play. So if Alabama were to play Georgia in a double overtime playoff game and lose,
or no, the SEC championship, play them into a double overtime game, lose by 1 point. How would you shift up the rankings? What would you do with them regarding the playoff ranking?
That'd be a hard one. You'd have to knock them down. I just don't know how much you'd knock them down. If they lost by 1 point, but then let's see, what's Georgia ranked?
4.
I thought they were ranked 5.
No, they just moved up because Michigan got shellacked.
They did.
Okay.
So then I would think they'd have to go to at least 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my thoughts. Because if Georgia was ranked 5, then yeah, I would think at least 3.
Personally, I think if that happens, Georgia goes to 1, Alabama goes to 4, or Georgia goes to 2, Alabama goes to 3. So that way they both play in the first round.
And
we've lost James. Okay.
Well,
let's go with Rob here.
Yeah, so based on the way everybody's talking and the way that things are shaking up right now, I think Bama's in regardless. Now, whether you like it, whether you agree with it, well, I mean, it doesn't matter because it's up to the committee, and I think they've shown, you can call it Bama bias, whatever you want. They've shown that, you got what they want, they've shown. And right now, I don't see how you can argue against Bama even if they lose. They'd have to lose pretty strongly. Now, I mean, if I'm saying what I'd prefer, if we beat them, I'd hope they'd be out because I don't want to play them twice. But I mean, everybody's like, we want Bama. Well, okay, I want to play them once to get revenge, right, but I don't want to play them twice in one season. So I mean, I don't think they're going to, regardless of what the score is. If they lose, I think they'll still be in it. Personally,
well, there's a difference between what we think is going to happen, but I think the question is, what would you do if you're on the committee? Yeah, I think the committee's probably going to put them in regardless, unless they just completely get blown out.
Oh, they'll still put it.
I must have misread the question. And so if it were me on a committee, then I think it really, to me, just depends on what happens in the other championship games. I mean, personally, it's easy for me to say because I have a personal hatred bias against Ohio State. But when you lose to a freaking awful Purdue team by, what was it, 29 points? Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, the rest of the season, you just have no say. Like, you should not make it just by that game alone. That was horrible. And then you almost get beat by Maryland. You get lucky to beat Maryland. Like, they just don't deserve to go. The only team right now that can make the argument that they should be in over Alabama if Alabama loses to Georgia is Oklahoma. Because they're the only – I mean, who do you have right behind them? I mean, is it Michigan again?
I think so. I haven't –
well, after they lost to Ohio State, they're not putting them in. So I would say, depending on how things shake up in the Big 12 championship, I'd say either if it were me, Alabama or Oklahoma, depending on how it went down. But
yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. Like, my thing is, I agree. It depends on what happens. If Tua plays in the whole game, and they obviously give their best effort because they have their Heisman contending quarterback in the whole game, and they end up losing to Georgia, who lost to LSU, I have a hard time putting them in there, and here's why. I'm an SEC guy, obviously, but if Oklahoma beats Texas handily, and the only loss they have was against Texas, their biggest rivalry, pretty much. I mean, you could say OSU is their biggest rivalry, but I mean, come on now, it's not. Texas is their biggest rivalry. Oklahoma State's not good. I mean, they have been in.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But no, Texas is their biggest rivalry. So they lose a rivalry game. So you cannot hold that against them. That'd be like if Alabama lost to Auburn. I mean, or if Georgia lost to Georgia Tech. Well, Georgia Tech hasn't been good for a while. That's a bad example. Sorry. But it's a rivalry game. Things happen that aren't supposed to happen. So if Oklahoma beats Texas handily in a neutral game in the Big 12 championship, I'm going to put Oklahoma in there because Oklahoma does not play Alabama, and Oklahoma does not play any mutual opponents as Alabama. So you cannot definitively say that Alabama is better than Oklahoma, even though I believe they are. But I'm an SEC fan, so I'm going to admit that I'm probably going to be a little bit biased there. But you cannot definitively say that Alabama is better than Oklahoma until they settle it on the field. So you got a 11-1 team that won the Big 12, and you got an 11-1 team that lost the SEC. I'm going to put Oklahoma in over Bama.
Well, and here's one more thing. We'll probably need to move on to the next question, but I think to James's point before he knocked off there, I don't think that Georgia will have a chance to go up to number one if they beat. I don't think they'll jump that high. I think if Georgia wins, Clemson will shoot to number one. Georgia would probably hit two. And Bama would not be three. I think they'd probably fall to four. They're not going to put them in the semifinals after they just played in the SEC championship because they're going to try to pit them again in the national championship because that would be I mean, there are a lot of other conference fans are going to hate it, but let's be real, the ratings would be off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to, that's what they want. So, and that's another thing that the committee that people they want to talk about how the committee goes. Well, the committee is going to do what's best for like they're going to pick the best teams, but they're also going to they're affected by ratings. That's their job.
Yep.
And so you got to look at it that way. But
so let's go on to the next question. This is a real quick one, and I'm going to answer it. Josh Carroll answered. It's all Josh Carroll asks, "Does anyone really truly like Gus Malzahn?" And I'm going to answer.
Can we just say no across the board?
No.
No.
Christy Malzahn does not even like Gus Malzahn. So let's just
got him.
Got him.
Got him.
All right. The next one says from Scott Tuning, who is a Bama fan. How bad will Alabama beat Georgia? Let's go with Mr. James, who just joined us. Let's see what he's got to say about that.
Yeah, glad to be back. Don't know what happened to the Wi-Fi. So I just picked one of the other functional networks that I've got in the house, and so we're A-okay. But I mean, this was one of my predictions. Somebody else had asked it elsewhere in the Tavern, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be somewhere around 38-17. Just based on how bad Alabama's been whooping up on everybody, and how Georgia's been playing. You know, that's my best guess.
Okay. Let's go with the new guy, Mr. JD, or Johnny Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with James. I mean, I'm seeing it right there. I mean, I put my money on Bama to win it, but I think it's going to be a good game, but Georgia's just not going to be able to stand up. And I don't know if I see them 38-17. You know, I might put Bama a little bit less, but they're probably very close to that, though.
Yeah. Gotcha. Let's move on to the next question real quick. I'm going to try to move along because we have a lot of questions on here. Rob, did you have anything to add?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. We'll go to you on the next one. Ryan Cornett says, "What has to happen for a Bama UCF CFP semi?" And Rob says, "For hell to freeze over, or the rapture," which I think most of us don't really believe in as reformed people. But anyway,
it wasn't meant to be taken that seriously.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. In my opinion, I think something has to happen like with 2007, I believe, when everything, all the top like 4 or 5 lost in the last week of the year, and it was turmoil. I remember because Arkansas beat LSU that year, which was LSU was one of the top dogs that went down. But anyway, yeah, something like that would have to happen. I think it could happen if Ohio State loses and Oklahoma loses, and I mean it like, dude, it could really happen because you're not going to put the Pac-12 champion in there because they suck, and you're not, and Northwestern, who's lost what 4 or 5 games. So yeah, I mean, I could see it happening. A lot has to happen. Let's go with Rob on this. He's laughing. Let's go with Rob.
Oh man, I mean, I already gave my answer. I don't. If you put UCF in there right now, it's just to appease the UCF fans. No one else cares.
Actually, yeah, everybody else does care. We want them to shut up.
Right, yeah, but you people only want them in there so they can get destroyed, not because they deserve to be there. That's my point. Yeah. No one cares about giving them respect because they haven't done anything to earn it.
But this would be a surefire way for them to earn it. So either we get them shut up, which is what's going to happen. If you look at their strength of schedule and how they played all season, they are going to get shut up.
But the question wasn't, do you want them in to get beat? The question was just talking about how do they have a chance to get in?
Right, but I mean, if you look at the standings, there is a possibility for them to get in. If Alabama absolutely lays the wood to Georgia, if Texas beats Oklahoma, and if Northwestern beats Ohio State, then yeah,
right, there is a small chance. Yes. I'm just saying it's not likely.
I wouldn't call that a small chance. I mean, Alabama is a pretty surefire win over Georgia. Oklahoma probably wants revenge pretty bad on Texas right now. Now, granted, I think Texas has a slightly better defense than Oklahoma, but Oklahoma may have stepped up as the season has worn on. Granted, they're both Big 12 defenses. So, I mean, I'm not saying their defense is good. I'm just saying it's better than Oklahoma's. At least that's what I saw in the other game. But anyway, to my point, if Oklahoma loses to Texas or only beats them by 1 point or a field goal or something like that, I don't foresee them moving into the top 5 if UCF absolutely destroys Northwestern, like, say, by 4 touchdowns, which, I mean, I'm not putting outside the realm of possibility, but yeah, if Texas beats Oklahoma, Northwestern beats Ohio State, and Alabama really lays the wood to Georgia, then yeah, I honestly think UCF is probably going to get in. And again, it's not that unlikely that Texas could beat Oklahoma. It's a little bit more unlikely that Northwestern could beat Ohio State. Northwestern could beat Ohio State, but it's still possible. Do what?
Purdue beat Ohio State by a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. You know, it's definitely within the realm of possibility based on how they've been playing this year. Granted, how they played versus Michigan last week, you know, that kind of, you know, indicates that they finally started to turn it on. But at the same time, I think Michigan was a little bit overrated too. I mean, Big Ten team, soft schedule, you know. I mean, it is what it is. You know, can't do anything about that soft conference. So, but long story short, yes, UCF can get in. No, it's not that far outside the realm of possibility. Yes, I would like to see it happen, and yes, I would like them to get the crap beat out of them so they shut up.
Please. I'm gonna go with
also
John.
Mackenzie Milton. May he rest in peace. I hope his knee heals, and I hope he is able to make a return to playing football because that injury was not looking good.
I'm going to throw this out there. It was several weeks ago when Memphis was what were they 4-4, and they were not. They may not have been 4-4. They were not considered a great team at the time. Maybe 3-4. But I told y'all that Memphis was going to play UCF for the conference championship.
Do you have the clip? Do you have the clip?
Do I have the clip?
Yes.
I don't have it.
You said you found it. You said you went and found it.
Oh, I have it. Oh, it's an hour into week I think 5 maybe. No, it's not week 5.
An hour into week 5.
It literally is. It's 1 hour. 1 hour and 00 seconds. Like it's right there. Like, and that's when I said it doesn't matter. We're talking about UCF because they're going to play Memphis again in the conference championship, and they're going to lose. So this is a moot point. And Ashton was like, I don't really know about that, but we're going to go into the next question. And I'm saying at the time it was far-fetched for Memphis to make it, but Memphis made it. And
spoiler for your picks.
Spoiler for your picks. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, Memphis is playing a UCF team without their big-time quarterback. Anyway, I hate that he went down like that. I didn't want UCF to lose that way, but it is what it is. We're going to go with John on the next question. We're going to start with him. Kyle Warnock, who is my homeboy from Arkansas, says, inspired by a recent post, should A&M return to playing Texas every year? Follow-up question, which is one rival or one team that you wish your team would play every year? So do you have a team that you do not play every year that you wish you would play every year? Johnny Matt.
Oh, sorry about that. Hold on. The team that we don't play every year that I wish we would. Who was it that said the other day? We were talking and mentioned about the Texas A&M.
Yeah, that was us.
Yeah, I think that would be a little more interesting to see that a little more. Another thing I think would, of course, getting out of the SEC would be, and it's just because South Carolina somehow basically breeds Ohio transplants, is to somehow get a South Carolina Ohio State game, and I mean I think that'd be kind of fun every year.
Nice.
Yeah, get them a little SEC meat on their schedule and see how hard it is to digest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. But for me, should A&M return to playing Texas every year? Absolutely. It's in their fights. They mention us in their fight song. Our war hymn is about beating the crap out of them. I mean, so it's been set in stone for like 100 years. We've met over 100 times, and the fact that they got money hungry with the Longhorn Network, and we decided that we were tired of their crap and left, and then they blackballed us because of it, and somehow twisted the other SEC teams into blackballing us as well and not playing us. I mean, that really, really irked me. And then especially to see them collapse after we left and not be there to kick them while they were down was absolutely infuriating. And now that Texas looks like they're back, now the discussion is getting reheated again about should we play A&M, And I mean, honestly, yes. I mean, now that bill that somebody just drafted, to try to make it a law and take away scholarship money if we don't play, I think it's a little bit ridiculous. Granted, I mean, the fact that it's taken this long and it seems like it's going to take something ridiculous like that to make it happen again, is a little bit sad. But at the same time, that takes away from the rivalry. The rivalry should be bred on pure hatred for each other, not necessarily the people of the institution, but the institution as a whole. I mean, I have plenty of friends that are Longhorns, but the hatred for that institution in Austin burns deeply within. It's still there. I know I, for one, want it back, and most of, if not all of my Aggie friends want it back. Even though Texas has us way outmatched as far as the total wins and losses, and I think they have something like 70 wins to 30 losses in the entire series, something along those lines. So, I mean, even in spite of that, just for having the pure good old-fashioned rivalry, and every once in a while that we get to beat that school, I mean, yes, it should be back. Now, as far as, is there another team that I wish that we would play every year?
No.
I mean, it might be fun to play some of the old Big 12 competition, maybe get a little bit of fresh meat from up in the Big 10, get your Ohio States or your Michigans or whomever. But honestly, I mean, as far as the rivalry is concerned, it doesn't really mean anything. Maybe getting an old Gig'em Classic with the Horned Frogs, that might be a little bit of fun.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all I've got to say on that.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think, bro?
So Warnock actually guessed it right when I asked him what he thought. I love to have a yearly battle with Clemson. Used to happen quite often. They're an old rivalry. I hate them.
Don't we all?
I mean, people are like, what? There's not much of a rivalry there. Y'all, why you hate Clemson? I'm like, because we used to play them all the time. It was a rival, and then we just stopped. Yeah, I mean, that's a team I've always wanted to beat. So, and we've got them coming up here at home and away, and the either 28-29 or 29-30 season forever from now, but I think it was. And that one year we've got both Texas and Clemson, which is going to be freaking crazy. But, yeah, that would be my pick. It's an old rivalry. Why not renew it? It makes sense because Athens is actually fairly close to Clemson. So it's almost kind of like having an in-state rivalry, just not the same state.
Just cross
really close distance. And I mean, yeah, you're going to add a tough opponent every year, but then okay, so you want to prove that you're the best and show your resume, So have a good rivalry and prove yourself every year. So and take Clemson out of contention by beating them early in the year.
Yeah,
Even better.
Exactly.
I did have one more thing to add for working Texas into the schedule. I did forget to mention one of the things that was brought up was that initially Texas didn't want to play us and wouldn't schedule us, and then after a few years, somebody said that they tried to schedule with us, but our schedules were full up for a number of years, which honestly is BS. You could rework the schedule really easily. And I think it would be really easy to schedule LSU earlier in the year and then play Texas on Thanksgiving like we used to. I mean, we've already got the Southwest Classic that's on a set week every year with Arkansas. We've got the Battle of the Bayou with LSU, which we could honestly put anywhere in the season, really. And then, just throw Texas in for our other non-conference game on Thanksgiving, and replace one of our non-conference games with the LSU game. So
Texas is afraid of Braden Mann.
Yeah, no, he'll kick that ball so far into win the field position battle every year. But I mean, he'll be gone after next year. So,
I think yes, A&M needs to play Texas every year, and well, maybe not every year. Here's what I'm going to propose. I think
James.
I think Arkansas needs to bring out that rivalry back into play because historically, the two best teams in the Southwest Conference were Texas and Arkansas. I'm sorry, James, but it's true. Nobody has won more Southwest Conference championships other than Texas and Arkansas. That's a fact.
8-0 in the SEC. That's all I've got to say. 8-0
Hey, no, it's true. It's true. We're talking about historical rivalries, though, is what I'm saying. We're talking about a Southwest classic.
Well, we're starting a historic win streak on y'all right now.
That's true. That's unprecedented. But we still own the lifetime. But whatever. Yeah. We've been down ever since you've been here.
Yeah.
So I mean. Petrino left right when y'all came, and we just like whatever.
Yeah, rebuilding decade,
man. We had to rebuild with the trash that we got when you first got here, which was Brett Bielema, who was all smoke and mirrors. He turned out to be Barry Alvarez's puppet, apparently, and just like the other guy, Mike, what's his name at Oregon State. The guy that went to Oregon State, who was a coach of Wisconsin, who ended up stinking when he left Wisconsin because Barry Alvarez still has his thumb on that program. But anyway, I want to see Arkansas and Texas A&M renew the rivalry with Texas. The last time we played Texas, we beat the crap out of them in a bowl game in 2012. No, 2014. Excuse me, 2014. So I want to keep talking about that, but I would say Arkansas home and home against Texas, and then A&M home and home against Texas. I'm talking about like a every 2-year thing. We go back and forth with that. That would be amazing. I would love that.
I have one final thing to add before we leave this. I sincerely hope that OU shellacks Texas in the Big 12 championship, and then with Texas A&M being third ranked in the SEC, I think that gives us a solid chance at being paired with Texas in a bowl game, and I think that is the first step to renewing the rivalry. Now, I think everybody else is predicting Georgia and Texas, which I think is a load of horse crap. After that 7 overtime historic game with LSU, all the fans that want the rivalry back, it would be an absolute bloodbath as far as money is concerned, and it would be a heated game. I mean, the SEC and the Big 12 would make a killing off of that bowl game. I mean, I don't see why you would not pair them. It does not make any sense whatsoever to me. Putting Texas with Georgia, Texas probably gets stomped by Georgia because Texas has no defense. I mean, okay, they have defense, but to my point, everyone wants a lot of people want the rivalry rekindled. Aggies got a lot of money. Longhorns got a lot of money. The Aggies and the Longhorns are having pretty okay seasons, relatively similar. And, I mean, there's no reason not to. And I think that is definitely the first step to rekindling the rivalry and rescheduling them every year.
Okay. We're going to go with Johnny Mack on the next question. Kevin Briggins asks, is Kevin Briggins the GOAT of Tavern Talk guests? What do you think about that?
I'm going to go with no. Just because I can.
It's all good. I wanted to throw that out there just for fun.
So, but as hosts, I feel like we got to go kind of like James Corden does with "Spill Your Guts" or "Fill Your Guts." We can't reveal that information, so we got to eat some nasty food.
Oh,
Because we can't be biased on here. We can't be biased to our guests.
No, we're not going to.
Even if we are, we can't announce it on air.
We've had some good guests, man.
Yeah,
like,
we really have.
it's really hard because I mean every guest that we've had has kind of brought something to the table from a different perspective, and that's what we were trying to go for. We're like getting usually someone from a different team, which we've had 2 Bama fans on here, which Lord, I apologize for that. But yeah, we've had Briggins and we've had Sam. But they've all brought different perspectives to the table, and that's what we were going for with that. So yeah, I can't say who's the GOAT. I will say that the after party with Kevin Briggins and and John Robert Thompson Phillips, who has 17 first last name, J.R. Phillips, the LeBron and MJ debate was amazing, which, as Rob pointed out, it wasn't really a debate. It was more like a roast. Kevin Briggins was just bringing the heat, man. Anybody who has not seen or heard that, it's still on YouTube and it's still on Podbean for at least the next 2 or 3 weeks. It was no, it's not on YouTube. Sorry.
No, that was after.
It's on Podbean. It's only on Podbean, which was just the audio, but it was just a straight up LeBron versus it was amazing. You got to check it out. It was the week 8 bonus clip, which y'all got to check that out.
Bonus clip. It was about 30 minutes worth of clip.
Yeah.
That's a lot of clip.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to.
We're selling DVDs on that one.
Yeah. I wanted to go to this. We had so many questions, but this was asked Tuesday, and it was not an official question. But it was West Melbourne. Rob said that we were going to discuss it on Tavern Talk. Well, West Mewborn. He has a weird name. MEWBO. Okay. Mewborn. West Mewborn. I know it's too early, but suppose Jalen Hurts transferred to Washington State. He would develop further as a passer and give Leach's team a dynamic he's never had at the quarterback position. Where should he go if he transfers? Let's go to the Mr. Reveille, or AKA Old Sarge.
Jalen Hurts. Well, if he wants to go play for Leach, he should probably hold his horses, because I was reading some stuff that said Leach wanted to go back to Tech. So
snap.
Yeah, so if that comes through and Leach does get back to Tech, then I mean I think that could be a pretty solid fit for Jalen, especially since he wouldn't have to move near as far. You know, he'd still be playing. Well, he'd be playing better teams than in the Big Ten. Washington State's in the Pac-12. He'd still be playing better teams than in the Pac-12. With OU having their high-powered offense, Texas having their high-powered offense, and I think he would give Tech a solid shot at, regaining relevance. And to add to that, as far as Kingsbury is concerned, we had another question about him, whether or not he would go to UK and be their OC. Honestly, I don't know. But back to the question about Leach and Hurts. I think I'll go ahead and pass that off to Rob.
All right.
Well, I know James is going to disagree with me on this because he he's got some hatred for him this year, but I think he would actually be a good fit at Kentucky. If you could get Benny Snell to stay, and then you add Jalen Hurts, their offense would be pretty scary. That run game, if nothing else, would be insane. And then you add, I mean, you get a lot of RPOs with that, and then you add, I mean, Jalen can throw the ball, he's just not Tua. So
yeah. Well, and to add to your point, if UK is able to pick up Cliff Kingsbury, you saw what Kingsbury did with Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. Their first year in the SEC, they went 10-2, and they had a high-powered offense. So I think if UK is able to draw Kingsbury and UK is also able to draw Hurts, that would be a formidable opponent, and I think that would be able to keep their momentum going, and I think they might actually gain a lot more relevance next year.
Well, and I think they I think they did pretty good this year. I think they had a pretty good team. They struggled with the quarterback was I mean, despite how you would say they did performed, their talent level was pretty good. And I think, their quarterback this year is a really, really good athlete, but we'll just leave it at athlete. He has a strong arm, but he can't make decisions. He doesn't know when to throw the ball. He doesn't know, and that's the biggest issue for Kentucky this year, I think, is that he didn't know how to make decisions. It's kind of a loose cannon. And so I think if you get a guy in there that's experienced like Jalen Hurts, who's played in the college system, who's played in the SEC, mind you, played against the SEC defense, knows how to go through his progression, all that. I think you add that, you bring Benny Snell back for his senior year. You, like you said, added a coaching staff. I mean, you could do a number of things, and they could really be successful. So, I mean, that to me, that would be my first thought. I mean, some people have said Tennessee. I think at this point, if Hurts was early on in his career, and Tennessee, you wait a few years, then okay, I might agree with that. But where Tennessee's at right now, I don't think Jalen Hurts would be much use to them. And I mean, to that effect, they've got a top quarterback recruit for 2020. So that Tennessee, that is. I think they got the number 4 quarterback. So, I mean, I don't think that'd be a good fit for him personally. But
I think someone said earlier that I'm going to say Arkansas, but no, I'm not going to say Arkansas.
No, you want Kelly Bryant.
Yeah,
I want Kelly Bryant. No, as far if you ask me who should he go to, not who do I want him to go to. Yeah, I'd love him to come to Arkansas, but it's just 1 year. I mean, I'll probably take Kelly. But anyway, who should he go to? Honestly, there are 2 teams that I think that he would be a really good fit at. I think one would be Florida because Dan Mullen has a historic past of being able to develop quarterbacks, and that's what he's trying to do. He wants to go to the NFL. I mean, obviously, everybody wants to go to the NFL, but he needs to be developed as a passer, and that's what Mullen did with Tim Tebow, who came in as a crappy passer, and he really developed him, and he ended up going to the NFL, which he didn't make it in the NFL, but he was in there a couple of years. He probably could have stayed longer if he wanted to play tight end or something, but that's neither here nor there. But I think Dan Mullen will be a good fit for him. On the other hand, I think Oklahoma would be a good spot for him to go to. I know a lot. Huh?
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. I mean, they are a very pass heavy offense, and Kyler Murray, even though he's the best or second best quarterback in the nation, depending on who you ask, um, he is going to be gone next year. A lot of people don't know this, but he was drafted number 9 in Major League Baseball.
I don't know why he's in college football right now.
Yeah, I don't know why he's playing. So he was drafted number 9. I'm like, dude, just sit out, man. You just work on your baseball game because you're going to get some serious cash. So he yeah, he's gone. I'm sorry, he's gone. He's not going to be there next year. Just write that off. So just forget about Kyler Murray and say, look, who do they have? I don't know because we haven't really seen much. If Jalen Hurts goes to Oklahoma in an offense that fits right in with him, I mean, they run the RPOs. But he needs to learn to pass. Well, guess what? Lincoln Riley is a good offensive coordinator. I mean, he was the second in command to Mr. Bob Stoops, who has produced a lot of NFL quarterbacks. Not all of them have made it, but I mean, he's had a lot of great quarterbacks throughout the years. Yeah, I think Oklahoma will be a really good fit for him. And
to your point about Florida, though, I don't think he would be a good fit for Florida, nor Florida a good fit for him. I do agree with you about Dan Mullen teaching him. The problem is he's got 1 year to play, and the amount it's going to take to teach him how to pass at NFL efficiency, it's not going to happen. I don't see him going to the NFL. With that said, especially at least, I mean, I just don't see it happening. But I also see what Florida has coming up. Forget Felipe Franks, who they've got coming up behind him. They've got, I think, 3 scholarship quarterbacks right now. One that is, I haven't really paid that much attention to, but from Florida fans that, have told me just pay it, they obviously watching the games, paying more attention than I am, and really follow them. Their freshman this year is probably going to take over next year. So I think if he comes to Florida, he's in a QB battle with a guy that's hungry to play. So I don't think that would be a good fit for him.
I got you.
Now, something unrelated that I just kind of clicked in my head after seeing that clip. I don't know if Rob posted it or if Brandon posted it, but the one of the Florida State player walking by Felipe and
I posted it.
Yeah. I vote that we start calling him Felipe Franks. Yeah, that was all I had. I had.
That's great.
Now, Johnny Mac, do you have anything to add to that?
Johnny Mac.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, do you have anything to add to that? Where do you think Jalen Hurts should go or transfer to next year?
No, I really don't have anything to add on that one.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, the only other question I saw is Kevin Briggins asks, the biggest whiners, Ohio State or UCF supporters?
Can I take that?
Golden Knights. I mean, I've got a quick short answer. Nick Saban is the biggest whiner. All right, Rob.
Okay, but that's not fans though. He said fans, not coaches.
No. He just said biggest whiners. Buckeyes or Golden Knights.
Buckeyes.
Okay. Well, see, I think as a whole, you gotta. I mean, long term, you gotta say Ohio State, but I mean, here recently, there's nobody that's whining more than UCF.
Mm.
They're fans at least, and the governor of Florida, who makes up fake championships. But when you're willing to go and invade one of the best neutral site rivalry games of the year and one of the greatest traditions in the world's greatest outdoor cocktail party, the Georgia Florida game, just to get attention, yeah, you're a bunch of whiny babies. You need to suck it up and let us have our game. And they ended up canceling their raid because they got threats. Because apparently Florida fans didn't take that. I'm sure Georgia fans gave them crap too. But most notably, Florida fans were on Twitter like threatening them. There were still a few out there with signs, but which is fine. It's just they've taken it to a whole level that's just ridiculous, and nobody likes them. The only reason anybody even pretends to like them is to troll other people. That's the only reason. Unless you went there, no one cares. Like everybody's just tired of hearing about them.
That's absolutely true. You said the troll other fans. Like most of the people in the groups that I'm in particular 5PL, will just like straight up call UCF the defending national champions, and it's honestly it's to troll the SEC fans, especially the Bama fans. It's just like, dude, because
you don't agree with the fact that they're national champions. Come on, nobody does.
You really, like, honestly, you cannot say that they're better than Alabama from last year. Like, yeah, they went undefeated against St. Mary's School of the Blind. Who gives a rip? They beat Memphis twice, and I love Memphis. I'm from right outside of Memphis. I do love Memphis football and basketball, whatever.
I love how that's your go-to, by the way. St. Mary's of the Blind. That's your go-to for every podunk school. You always use that.
Yeah, same, whatever. Yeah,
it's great.
I mean, hey, in their defense, St. Mary's has been a powerhouse this year. I hear they also beat Arkansas.
Okay. I was trying to get over to you. Everyone saw my reaction. So, yeah. Okay, so let's just throw it out there. North Texas beat Arkansas, and
hasn't beat Arkansas.
With the greatest fake fair catch ever.
Yeah,
that was bad. That was so bad, man. But anyway, we can move on. And
ready for picks?
Yeah, I think we're ready for picks. There was another question that I think we'll get to next week because
I've actually got the games right here. If you want me to head them up,
talking about
the picks.
The
games I've got them in front of me. All right. Well, let's start with Dr. Pepper ACC Championship game. We got Clemson versus Pitt. What you think, JB?
And I've got hold on a second.
I mean that one's pretty much a no-brainer. You got Clemson, don't you?
I've got Clemson on that one.
I wasn't expecting it to be that hard, but
no, sorry. I was trying to find my picks, man. I've got Clemson. I mean, I don't think Clemson is that great, but they have progressed throughout the year. But yeah, I mean, as far as facing Pitt, I mean, there's nobody in the ACC that's any good besides Clemson. So,
nope.
It's a no-brainer. Clemson wins this.
And since Ashton's not here, he would say Clemson sucks, but they win because Pitt sucks more. James, what you got?
I've got Clemson in this one, man. I mean, no two buts about it.
Yep.
Spread is 27.5. So
I guess the
Mac,
better question is, do they cover?
Yeah. What do you think, JV? You think Clemson covers?
JB?
Yes.
Yeah.
You.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, there's a JD in here.
Yeah.
Clemson. No, I don't think they're going to cover. No, but I think they win. But I don't think that 27,
27.5.
27 and a half. Yeah, I don't think they cover. I think Pitt catches up because they know they're yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think they cover. I don't think they cover.
Johnny Mac, do they cover?
No, they're not going to cover.
Okay.
They're not.
What you think, James?
But Clem sucks will win.
Clem sucks.
No, I do think they're going to win, and it's close, but I'm going to stick with I think that they'll cover. Yeah.
Yeah, and I sorry, Johnny Mac, but I think they'll cover as well. They suck. I hate Clemson, so I don't want to say that, but
I hate Clemson with a passion.
Yeah, I hate them too, so much. But all right, well, let's move on to the. We declare ourselves the fake Power Six Conference, the American Athletic Conference Championship, UCF and Memphis. JB, we know who you're going to pick, so since you've already told us, so will UCF cover there's a 3-point spread. So
I'm going to say I was just going to say you're going out of order from my post, but anyway.
I'm not looking at your post. I'm looking at ESPN.
Okay. We're going the 10 Power 5 and the Group of 5, right? Because I didn't pick anybody else but that. But I picked Memphis.
The relevant games. So.
Yeah.
Okay. I picked Memphis in this. I said Memphis 10 represent. Like I said, the quarterback's out, and they barely beat them a few weeks ago. Like they had to come back from behind to beat them when they had their quarterback. So I really don't think UCF's got enough to take it to this one. I think Memphis is going to take it. They've got a great running game, and I'm a big fan of the running game. You control the clock, and it's just the thing that I like. I think they got a better running game. They're going to win.
All right, James, who you got?
Yeah, I've got Memphis in this one as well. I liked Memphis early on. Now I think they had one more. They had a relatively high profile win, if I remember correctly. Let's see, they beat SMU, they beat Houston, they only lost to UCF by gosh, I don't remember. It was less than a touchdown. Oh yeah, no, they only lost by 1 point.
It was 1 point, yeah.
Yeah. They lost by 1 point. They whooped Connecticut 55-14, which I don't think UCF beat them quite as badly. So yeah, no, I definitely think Memphis is the stronger of the two teams, and I think they'll stick it to them.
Nicely. JD or Johnny Mac?
I'm right there with you. Memphis. I think they're the stronger team, and I just don't think UCF will hold up to them.
Memphis 10 represent.
What you got? All right. Well, I actually in the pick'em I picked UCF. The spread is 3, which in favor of UCF, which I'm not surprised is low considering their quarterback is hurt. I think I'm going to stick with my pick, even though I hope they lose. I just think that if you looked at half my picks, I had strong opinions on how I felt about making those picks. but I think UCF is still out to prove something. I think that Memphis is going to be a worthy opponent, but I think they're out to prove that they're going to go undefeated again, even though Memphis is the best team they play and whatnot. So I think they're going to. And then, of course, you go with you can throw the fact that their quarterback's hurt, and that's going to hurt them, but it also can be an emotional thing. I don't know what the problem with making this pick is I don't know who their backup is. I have no clue. I don't know if he has an arm or if he's a crippled kid. I don't know. That's a horrible joke to make.
Yeah, no, he's a transfer from St. Mary's School of the Blind.
I realize now that I said that, and I made an injury joke off an injury. That wasn't a nice thing to say. I didn't mean anything by it, but I'm gonna stick with that pick. So,
okay.
JB, do you have those pulled up?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because ESPN doesn't have all of them that you had, so I don't think
we're gonna go all 10 because Power 5, and this is the first time that we're picking games that are not SEC games.
Or maybe it wasn't. Let's
Yeah, no. If
you
want, I can go ahead and read them off, and then we'll go through.
I've got them.
Yeah, go ahead. You got them up in the pick'em. So
Georgia versus Alabama. Number 4 Georgia versus number 1 Alabama. Let's just throw that out there because
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Johnny Mac, got anything different?
Yeah, it's gonna be Bama.
All right.
I don't even want to talk about it. Let's just go on the next pick. That's my one-liner for you. Let's go on.
That's your one-liner. Okay. Northwestern, number 21, versus number 6, Ohio State, a.k.a. overrated state.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I picked Northwestern in this one.
Snap.
Honestly, I think if Ohio State was going to win, now would be the time that they were going to win, just because of how they put the hurt on Michigan last week. But I figure, what the heck? It's championship week. I've already, completely lost out. Like, I didn't even finish at plus 70 on the season. I'll go ahead and take my risks now and pick who I hope more than who I think. So yeah, I've got Northwestern. I do think it'll at least be a relatively close game, if nothing else.
Johnny Mac, who you got, bro?
I'm going with Ohio State. I believe it's going to be a close game, but I think just Ohio State will pull it out at the end.
Yeah. Rob?
Well, I picked Ohio State. They're favored by 14.5. I don't know if they'll cover that, but I think right now they're out to prove something as well. I think that they kind of felt the kind of rejection from people after that Purdue loss, and then kind of backsliding and almost losing to Maryland, and they felt their respect going down a little bit, so they came out and stuck it to Michigan, who probably was a little overrated, let's be honest. But how much of the Big Ten isn't? But I'm going to stick with my pick and say Ohio State, but in a close one. No more than 10, I'd say. Because I would like to see Northwestern win, and honestly, I think they could. Northwestern is fun to watch because if you've paid attention to them any in the past, they are a big season killer for teams. They like to ruin someone's season, even when they're not even considered to be contention for crap when they completely suck. They like to upset teams. So I think it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I picked overrated state as well. Um, for the record, the SEC fans have been calling them overrated state all year long, even
It's
before
been
they.
longer. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
longer
Yeah.
than a year. I've been calling them
Yeah.
that for at least 2 years, if not
Yeah.
more.
Okay. Well, there you go. So yeah, we've been calling them that for a while, even before they lost to Purdue by like 1 billion points. Anyway, I got Ohio State winning because they feel like they've got something to prove, even though it's a lost cause because it's not going to happen. OU is going to get in before them. Notre Dame is just spoiling everybody's fun, right?
Pretty much.
But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that leaves 3 conferences to get in, 3 out of 5, which we have discussed. An expansion has got to happen. And, hey,
All right, Johnny Mac, did you make your pick in that? You got
Yeah,
over
he
the
did.
state?
he
Okay.
picked overrated state.
Yeah.
Let's go with the big one of the day, man. Let's just throw it out there. Texas versus Oklahoma. We're gonna actually no, we're gonna wait for me and James because we have some skin in the game. Let's go with John. Let's go with Johnny Mac.
That one's a hard one. I've been kind of thinking about that one. I think I'm gonna go with Texas.
Oh snap!
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Texas on that one.
All right, it's all good. I get it. They've got a defense, and OU does not. So I get it. Rob, what do you think, bro?
I don't remember who I picked on the Tavern, but this one was a tough one for me. To break it down, I think it comes down to a couple of things. Oklahoma has almost no defense. Texas has something of one for the Big 12, which really means nothing. I'm going to go with Oklahoma solely because I think that their offense is going to be a little too much for Texas defense. Texas can stop, a lot of the Big 12, but I think Oklahoma's offense is going to be a little too much. And that's, I normally do say that, defense is what wins championships. Defense is key, but I don't think Texas defense is that good to make that much of an impact. So I'm going to pick Oklahoma.
Jeff Norman, I hope you're watching.
Sorry, no one-liner on that one.
Man, I'm going Oklahoma. It's really hard. It's really hard to beat a team twice in a year. If you look at, I haven't made my picks yet, but I'm going to post them later tonight. But yeah, I for the most part, I'm not going to pick a team that's already lost to the team that they're playing because it's really hard to beat a team twice. And with Texas and Oklahoma, it's a rivalry game. What are you saying, JD?
No, I'm saying true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, exactly. So Oklahoma lost a rivalry game, which could go either way 95% of the time. But this is for all the guts and the glory. Texas has already got, 2 or 3 losses. OU is playing for a spot in the playoff. They could get there. They just got to win, and then somebody else has got to stumble. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma's got this. They've got probably the best offensive in the country. It's Alabama's great, but the fact that they can stop people makes them a more complete team. And Kyler Murray and Tua are very neck and neck. But anyway, I'm just going. Oklahoma's got a great offense, either one or two in the country. And I don't think that Texas's defense is enough to stop Kyler Murray and the Oklahoma offense. Anyway, let's go with Mr. James and see what he's got to say about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Boomer Sooner as well. I was looking at their record, and on the season, they've given up 40 points or more in 5 games, and that started with the Texas game. Texas, they gave up 48. Texas Tech, they gave up 46. Oklahoma State, they gave up 47. Kansas, they gave up 40. West Virginia, they gave up 56. And I'm pretty sure all of those ended in regulation time, except, all of those ended in regulation time. So, in the Texas game, Lincoln Riley was so pissed off that he fired their DC that, like, either that day or the following day. So, I mean, it makes sense that they've been giving up, 40 plus points in 4 out of their following 6 games. So, but yeah, I tend to lean with JB there. It's hard to beat a team twice, even when they fire their non-existent defensive coordinator. And it does remind me, OU does remind me of Texas A&M circa 2013 when we had no defense and a banging offense, like just straight firing on all cylinders, took Alabama into the 40s. I believe the final of that game was 49-45 Alabama. So it does remind me of that team a little bit. And I think given the second chance, Oklahoma is going to take it to Texas. I mean, it's probably still going to be a high-scoring game. It's probably still going to be relatively close, but I think Oklahoma is going to pull this one out. Plus, given the chance to adjust, I mean, Texas won that game. They saw a lot of things that they did right. Oklahoma saw a lot of things that they did wrong, and they both had chances to adjust. But I think Oklahoma, having struggled so much on defense, was they had more information on where they should adjust and hopefully have adjusted.
Gotcha.
I changed my pick.
Let's move on. Let's go into the group of 5 before we come back. Northern Illinois versus Buffalo. Who wins that game? Mr. John Duncan McLeod.
Northern Illinois and Buffalo. I've never even heard of Buffalo, really.
Well, they're favored by 3.5.
Do what?
They're favored by 3.5 points. Buffalo is 10-2, and Northern Illinois is 7-5.
You not made your Tavern picks yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've been procrastinating. I think I'll go with Buffalo.
All right.
Just
Rob, what you got?
Flip the coin.
Huh?
Oh, I got Buffalo.
Rob's got Buffalo. Okay. James?
I went ahead and went with NIU purely because they're the team that I've heard of before. So I figure I've heard of them before. I haven't heard of Buffalo before. I figure they're probably the better team. If they're not, oh well.
Georgia's played Buffalo, so
yeah.
In the last few years, Georgia played Buffalo, so
that's a money game.
Yeah, it is. It is, but I'm saying I know who they are because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, who's heard of Buffalo unless Jim Kelly is the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I told my age there. But I actually picked Buffalo in this game because I did some homework and looked at the records. Did I pick Buffalo? Yeah, I picked Buffalo. So, yeah, I got Buffalo on that one. Let's go on to the next game. Middle Tennessee versus UAB. I'm going to go to the only person who has a team that played against UAB, Mr. James McKissick.
Yeah, I went ahead and picked UAB for this one simply because I saw how well they played Texas A&M, and they didn't just let Texas A&M wail on them. I don't remember specifically the final score. I think we did finish up a couple touchdowns, but it wasn't until late in the game. I'm pretty sure it was the fourth quarter when we really started to roll on them. They kind of stuck with us, at least, within a touchdown, around that area for 3 quarters. And so, and that was at Kyle Field, at Texas A&M. So, granted, we had just come off our road schedule, had a couple losses, probably, weren't really playing 100%. They did come into Kyle Field, play Texas A&M at home, and stick with them for 3 quarters. So I went ahead and picked UAB for this one.
Gotcha. Mr. Johnny Mac, what you got, bro?
Johnny Mac's muted.
Wait, go ahead. Sorry, what was that?
Who you got?
I think I'll go with UAB as well.
All right. Rob.
So this is another one that I don't remember who I picked. I want to say I picked UAB, but I don't remember. I don't have those pulled up on the picks. This one was one of those that I wasn't really sure about, but after looking at it, I am, regardless of what I picked on the Tavern, I might change it if I didn't. I'm going with UAB because they literally just played each other, and MTSU beat UAB 27-3. So I'm going to go on the hard to beat somebody twice in one season, let alone and also the fact that they literally, that was the last game each of them played was against each other. So they're just turning around and playing again immediately. So I think UAB is going to win that one.
All right. Yeah, I got UAB as well. Let's move on to the next game because we are running out of time.
Aren't we always?
Always, every single week. Louisiana Lafayette versus Appalachian State. Who do you got, James?
I got Appalachian State. They've been a formidable opponent to some people in the past. I guess it's been somewhere in the past 10 years. So yeah, I'm going with Appalachian State.
All right, Johnny Mac, who you got?
App State.
App State. Rob, who you got?
App State, man. I don't know. No one cares. No. Wasn't it several years ago? Wasn't it Michigan that App State beat?
I don't remember if I think it was Boise State when Boise State was hot.
No. There was somebody else. Yeah, it was Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. Michigan. App State beat Michigan because I remember my friend texted me, said this is the demise of Michigan football, and they haven't been good since. Let's keep on going. The next one is let's go with Fresno State, number 25 versus number 19 Boise State. Who you got, James?
I got Fresno State. Honestly, I haven't paid any attention whatsoever to Boise State. I guess I should probably go find DJ and see what he thinks. But yeah, no, I picked Fresno for this one.
All right. Johnny Mac, who you got, bro? Johnny Mac.
He's muted again.
Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
yeah.
I think I'll go with Boise State on this one.
All right.
I haven't really paid any much attention. I'm just going with who has the higher ranking.
All right, bro. It's all good. Rob, who you got, bro?
I believe I picked Boise State, but yeah, this I don't know. I can't remember who I picked because half these games I don't give two craps about. So
yeah,
normally like I can. Well, normally I can sit there and remember every pick I made just because it's easy, but I just don't care. If I'm being honest.
Well, he's right. Literally half of these games are not Power 5 conference games because we've gone – there's 5 and 5. Anyway, I picked Fresno in this because like we have said multiple times, it's hard to beat a team twice. And Boise beat Fresno like 2 weeks ago. And it was by a touchdown, I believe. So, yeah, I think Fresno is going to be out for revenge, like what's always happened when it comes to rematches. Even though it is at Boise, it was at Boise a few weeks ago, and they only won by a touchdown. I think Fresno State's going to win this. I may have picked Boise in a different group, but it's fine. I'm picking Fresno in this group for reasons. But the only other game that
Brandon.
we have, Brandon, yeah, okay. Last game, the greatest football conference. That's not true. The worst Power 5 conference, which is the Pac-12 conference championship, which is Utah, number 17 versus number 10 Washington. Who do you have, James McKissick?
I got Washingtons. I mean, if for nothing else, they're the higher ranked team, and I don't care about Pac-12 football.
All right, Johnny Mac, who you got, broski?
I'm right there, same as James.
All right. Rob.
I mean, it's Power 5 conference, and I don't care. But
It's a Power 5.
huh?
It is a Power 5 conference.
I said it was. I said it wasn't. I said I don't care.
Oh, okay.
No, I've got Washington. I was tempted to pick Utah, but because at the beginning of this year, I literally thought Washington was trash. But they have picked it up throughout the year and are like a cleaner, less dirty trash. So
cleaner, less dirty trash.
So they're like recyclable goods.
Exactly. Yeah. They're just
there you go.
one step above trash.
Okay.
And I just don't know anything about Utah because I don't pay attention to them.
So they're a little bit better than Arkansas. I get it. A little self-deprecation there.
Compost.
Well, they're 9-3 instead of 2-10, but yeah.
Well, yeah. It is what it is. We were not predicted to beat Auburn, and Washington was, or about a half and half game. But anyway, I actually have Utah in this game because they have equal records, and I think Utah has had some better wins, and I think Washington is coming off a heartfelt win against Washington State, which I think Washington State was the better team. They just did not perform. I think Washington just played their hearts out, and I think they're going to come into Utah thinking they've got it going on, and they're going to lose just like they lost to Auburn, who is not that great of a team, even though they beat Arkansas, which everybody has except for two other teams. With that, I think we're done for the day, and it has been a great podcast. Does anybody have anything to share or add to what has transpired today?
We're running on an hour 45. I think it's a new record, so I was not kidding when I said a special 7 overtime edition of the Tavern.
That is absolutely true.
I know it's getting past.
Say again, Johnny Mac.
It's getting past my bedtime. It's 1:30 here.
Oh yeah.
You're on that Eastern time.
Yeah, we're on
the good time, you know.
Yeah.
Y'all are in the future. What's going on in the future?
Hey, we get TV shows.
Like I
we
told
get
you,
beers,
man.
we get all that first.
You got to stop living in the past.
Exactly.
But anyway, it's been a great cast. I've enjoyed it. Thank you, John, for coming on today, Mr.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. I wish we could see you.
I know. I'll have that fixed soon.
Okay. You got to get on at some point soon to showcase your voluptuous beard that you have going on.
Yes, it's getting there.
Because I'm really upset because me and James, me, James, and Rob had some beards going.
Yeah,
you can kind of see. I don't know.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But then Johnny Mac comes on with this like freaking Spurgeon looking thing, or Calvin looking thing going on, and yeah. So,
shall I sign us off?
sign us off.
You shall.
All right. Thank you for joining us this evening. And remember, brothers, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And we'll catch you in the tavern. Good night, everybody.
Amen.